Today, on this exact date right here on the screen, is the 10th anniversary of when the last episode of Violetta originally aired. And what a finale it was to the show! It follows all the characters in Sevilla doing their final show before graduation. All the endgames have been paired up and they spend the day remembering the legacy of their school's late founder Antonio and remark about how far they've come. The only conflict in the whole episode is Francesca and Diego, who accidentally have gotten themselves lost and need to get back to the show in time. Will they make it? Oh, will you look at that? They did get back in time. Yay! Now we can have our show. Antonio would have been so proud of us. The show goes on. The audience goes wild. They sing their final song about how they're grown together and how they always have each other in their hearts, no matter where they go in life. Final song ends. Everyone claps. Scene. The show ends. What do you mean I didn't tell the whole ending? What? No, this is what happened in the episode. Watch it for yourself. What do you mean I skipped a certain part? Okay, let's talk about it. The elephant in the room. The show actually doesn't end on this stage. It continues for a while. Everything I've just told does happen in the final episode, but I purposely did not mention two characters. Violetta's dad German and her aunt, Angie. Both German and Angie are with them in Sevilla. Angie because she's a teacher at the school they attend, and German bought the studio after it got some financial problems, and I guess he also wanted to come. During the past episodes, these two have not been on good terms, and during this whole episode, all they do is bicker. Now, Violetta has been wanting German and Angie to get together for the past 3 years. It's a naive thinking of her, really. Really, it was that she thought Angie was so kind and the closest thing she has to a mother because she's her mother's sister, so she should be perfect for her father. The thing though is, Angie isn't a mother, she's an aunt. Violetta just does not know the difference because she doesn't have a mom, and her father never let her get to know her aunt growing up because he spent 12 years refusing to tell Violetta she even had a family from her mother's side. Yeah, as you can hear, German is not the best person, but he's changed! Okay, but is he really the best person for Angie? Well, watching the last episode out of context, you really wouldn't think so. They don't have a single good conversation until that scene at the stage. Earlier, Leon bought a ring and let Violetta try it. We thought it was Leon buying a ring for Violetta, how cute! No, the ring is for German to give to Angie. Violetta thinks that he just needs a push, and she gives him the ring. Then German goes out on stage and proposes to Angie. And Angie says yes. Just a question. Does Angie look remotely happy when he proposes? 'Cause I see a woman absolutely terrified and possibly saying yes under the pressure of being watched by thousands of people, but that's just my headcanon or something. We then cut to Angie and German's wedding, which is outside the Benson mansion in Soyluna. I really need to know how Sharon allowed them. I mean, I can see how she and German would know each other considering their status, but how did she allow him to use her garden for the wedding? Does this take place during the first episode of Soyluna, so Sharon and Amber are overseas for the moment? Do they do it while they are away? There's so many questions. Anyway, everyone is at their wedding, including people that I never thought they would invite, like Marotti and Mattias. Mattias' girlfriend also came and brought handcuffs with her because Mattias has a handcuffs kink and apparently needs to show that in the middle of the wedding too. After German and Angie has been officially married, they all sing Crecimos Juntos again. 10 minutes after they sang it last time. And it's fine, it's a nice performance and the song is nice, but I don't want it to end like this. I've had a lot of problems with German and Angie as a ship. First off, how would you feel if your dad and your maternal aunt got married? Your mother's sister marrying your father? I also need to add that it's implied that Angie is much younger than her sister, like maybe even a decade younger. Other adult characters recall seeing her when she was just a kid. When she shows up again in season 1, German doesn't know who she is, because the last time he saw her, she was presumably much younger. Age gaps does not matter when both are adults, but there's no way German never would have met Angie back when he was married to her sister. Angie seems to have spent plenty of times with Violetta as a baby, probably babysat her when German and his wife went out. He should have met her, and back then it's possible Angie was just a teenager. But sure. Being former in-laws and having big age gaps aside, what is the issue? The issue for me is that I've seen the show. For the very start of the show, it's clear that they want these two to be together, and because the show wants them to be together, you as a viewer needs to also think so. But it never felt right. In the beginning of the show, German doesn't know Angie is his late wife's sister. Angie doesn't tell it because she's afraid that it would lead to German taking Violetta away from her again. Nonetheless, German feels an attraction to her, so much so that he considers breaking up with his fiancée. Oh, but his fiancée is bad, we're supposed to hate her anyway. But I just feel bad for Jade, she clearly wants to be with him and he's treating her like crap. Why would he treat Angie better? Once German does find out that Angie is Violetta's aunt, things get weird between them. By season 2, Angie still lives in his house, and she claims it's to be close to Violetta. But she still has a thing for German, and it's bad for her to stay there. Just like Pablo said. Right, Pablo. Pablo and Angie dated in season 1, and their relationship was one of the most interesting ones. They kissed like 5 times in one season alone. Do you know how much that is for Violetta season 1? It was passionate. Sadly, Angie was toxically pangling after German, a man she couldn't get, and thus she and Pablo's relationship fell flat. And Pablo just saw all of these red flags with German. Angie, remember, he kept you from your niece for 12 years. Angie, he lied to her and told her she didn't have any family on her mother's side. Angie, he doesn't let Violetta follow her dreams. Don't defend him, Angie. And in season 2, Pablo keeps telling her to move out of the house. Now, Pablo was written to be pretty rude and distant in season 2, and I think it was to show the viewers that there would be no chance of him and Angie being endgame. Look how mean Pablo is. Why would Angie end up with him? Come on. She should end up with German. He's changed now. Look, he lets Violetta follow her dreams now. He's better. Is he, though? Angie does move out from the house in season 2, which was good. She's still pining for German, though, unfortunately. But she moves on a bit when she gets to know the new pianist at the school. He gets her. He makes her happy. And he's German in disguise. Yeah, German dressed up in disguise to spy on Violetta at the studio and in the process lets himself woo Angie. And when she finds out, well, it's the final straw for her to leave everything and move to France. Good for her! But then she comes back to Buenos Aires in season 3, and by that point, well, German, I guess, is a better person. That still doesn't mean that I support them being together. I remember how much he's hurt Angie. I remember how much trauma he's induced on her. And she's still not over it. Then, during the last episode of season 3, all they do is argue. But oh, Violetta tells Angie that she knows German loves her, and thus, despite their previous conversations being all bickering, she's now ready to say yes to his hand in marriage. They aren't even dating at this point! So I skipped over a lot of stuff here, because while I am more than capable of making a 2-hour video, I don't want to waste that much time on these two. As you might say, hey, despite that, didn't you like the ending? Yeah, I suppose so, but their wedding being the final focus of the show icks me. But hey, how would you have the ending then? Please tell us. I'm glad you ask. First, we need to perhaps rewrite some things in the previous episodes, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for that to happen here. We'll begin with something small. Clement and Jerry do not follow them to Sevilla. Clement is a first-year student, and Jerry isn't even a student at all. She's Beto's assistant! Instead, they either reveal their plan to Leon and Violetta before they leave, or Leon and Violetta watch Clement's video in Sevilla, and later, when they come back, they talk to him. For consistency, it's the first option. They solve all of that, perhaps Leon and Violetta get back together an episode or two earlier, or we spend an episode just having them build up to the kiss at the bridge. I'm not really changing anything else about the canon endgames with the teenagers, it's fine and wholesome as it is. Now, for German and Angie. I think once Angie comes back to Buenos Aires again, perhaps German tries to start something and Angie just turns him down. She's moved on from him. She's realized that she deserves so much better than him. They end the show on friendly terms, but no romance. Angie either ends the show single and thriving, or she ends up with Pablo. After helping him through the grieving process of Antonio, they get closer again and realize how much they love each other. Maybe German doesn't even follow them to Sevilla, or he does, but in that case, he doesn't have a big role. I also want to remove that he apparently was a student at that performing arts school he visited. Like, you can't just throw that in the final episode. Like, what? Let's remove that. Honestly, the only funny scene with German in the final episode is when Leon calls him his future father-in-law and runs off. And that scene could happen over a phone call. Maybe German sees the show on a live stream and video calls Violetta and then scolds Leon over the kiss. And then Leon goes, "Thanks, future father-in-law," and hangs up. I think after they have performed their final song in Sevilla, we cut to their graduation. They sit or stand on a stage, maybe outside the Benson Mansion again if they wanted to rent somewhere fancy, and one by one they get called up. Maybe they go up and hug their teachers, or they go up and get a diploma, I don't really know. Anyway, and then after this, they perform one more song. They might perform Que Hicimos Juntos again, but it's possible that they instead perform Ser Mejor again to really hit home. Or they perform a medley of several songs. And then it ends with everyone looking into the camera and Violetta winking like she always does. My point with this is essentially that the final scene should not focus on something else other than Violetta and her friends, and seeing their graduation would really hit home. And now we need to talk about the 14-minute special that they only aired in Latin America and nowhere else, and didn't release on Disney Plus either. In this special, the gang comes back to On-Beat Studio for the final time. They walk around and reminisce about memories they've had. How this place has changed for them, for the better, how much they've learned here, and how they met people that they will keep in their lives forever. Then they all sit down at the piano and sing Ser Mejor one final time. Now this is a finale. I so much more wish that we got this over the Weird Wedding. I understand that they need to wrap up German and Angie somehow, and that's why I suggest that they did that much earlier, because this, right here, should have been the final episode's only focus. These teenagers closing an era of their lives. Okay, I might have been too harsh on the final episode of Violetta. 90% of it is good, and I wouldn't change much about it besides German and Angie. Maybe I'm just too nitpicky, and hey, wasn't the final performance at the wedding so sentimental? Yeah, sure, but I much rather wanted that performance to be at their graduation. And I've been thinking about this for 10 years. But I guess the final episode really makes me think about this show as a whole. How much I think about it still to this day. How it keeps consuming my brain long after it stopped airing. There is so much in the show that I wish went differently. There is so many problematic things here. There's a lot to discuss. But there's also a lot to love. I get so passionate about how it went. And I also have my own ideas of how I would have done it instead. But God, do I love this chaotic mess of a show. These characters, I either love or loathe them, and either way they make me feel things. They make me feel so much. Even if I have some conflicting feelings about the finale, it doesn't take away the enjoyment I've had for this show. An enjoyment I've had for over a decade. And I don't think I'll ever stop loving the show or how much it impacted me as a person. What are your feelings about the finale? Do you feel similarly, or do you have other thoughts on it? I'm very happy to hear it. I still can't believe it's been 10 years since the final episode aired. But leave a comment if you have some thoughts about this finale too. And as per usual, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.